Plant yourself in farmweeknow.com. Whether your door leads to the farm, field, or shop, you can follow breaking ag news, markets, and weather updates 24 hours a day. It's now easier than ever. Enjoy our trusted news and information. Listen to the RFD Radio Network, the Taking Stock podcast, and check out county events, auctions, and more. And sign up for the daily update to receive top headlines delivered to your inbox 5 days a week. Go to farmweeknow.com. All ag, all Illinois, all you need.
If you've got allergies this season, we have relief. CEO Paul Scarron here from Warner Hospital and Health Services in Clinton. Come to our walk-in clinic inside our family medicine. No appointment, no problem. See our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
News time is 7 minutes after 7 o'clock on this Friday. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded 7 o'clock newscast. Brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and brought to you by Connexus, providing fiber internet to Clinton. Learn more at DeWittDailyNews.com. The DeWitt County Board sought to implement a 1978 Illinois Supreme Court ruling to evaluate zoning decisions for potential renewable energy applications into its local ordinances. At Thursday night's DeWitt County Board meeting, DeWitt County State's Attorney Dan Markwell explained the factors, of which there are 6, are used to evaluate whether a zoning restriction or special use permit denial is reasonable or arbitrary. The state of Illinois does not have laws in place regarding zoning, so the LaSalle factors are often turned to as the standard for applications. However, when the state of Illinois came in with its own laws for wind and solar, they superseded the LaSalle factors. The county is seeking to implement the LaSalle factors into its local ordinances, something Markwell fears would be seen as more stringent than the state's, which would be prohibited.
Okay, I'll reread the motion. I move to amend the motion to repeal the current DeWitt County Commercial Wind Energy Conversion Ordinance, Chapter 153, as amended, with the new revised version by incorporating the hearing factors, also known as LaSalle factors.
Here's the situation with that. So we're all aware back in 2023, the legislature passed the current wind and solar energy guidelines. Prior to that, the legislature had never spoken on that issue. So the LaSalle factors, that, as they're referred to, when the legislature doesn't have any laws in place, judges end up determining what the law is through case law. And there was a case, one of the parties was named LaSalle, that's where the name comes from. But the judge in that case made a determination that these 6 factors were good things to have. There was never any contrary law to that. So that became the law of the land in Illinois until the legislature chose to act. Now, the legislature only chose to act in solar and wind cases. For every other kind of zoning right now, we still have those LaSalle factors that the ZBA considers when making those determinations. So my concern about adding those with that, it would create something that would be inconsistent, more stringent than what the law currently provides. And the one thing that come to my mind, well, first of all, and the court had only applied that to special use permits. This was never applied to siting before. That's why it's in our special use permit section of the code. But I know some of the board members have discussed changing the comprehensive plan to take all references of solar and wind out. So if that happened, then we create a situation where we're looking at these 6 factors. If those were taken out, and there's no mention of wind or solar, the board could say, well, they're not in compliance with the LaSalle factors, therefore they're not in compliance, we're going to deny it. But that's not what the statute says. The statute says you shall approve if the statute's met. So I would suggest leaving them out, because if you hang your hat on that and you're having a discussion about this and don't think those factors are met, that's not a basis to approve anymore. So I'd recommend not having it.
Discussion among board members turned to grousing about not being able to make its own decisions about renewable energy developments and having to follow state law.
Well, I just think it's important to have a vehicle to discuss the impact of these projects on the people who live there. And without, you just look at the state statute, there is no such vehicle for us to have that discussion. Otherwise, we just, look down and say yes. And that's kind of like what the old board did.
I just say, I don't like the idea of, that we still don't have a choice to be able to say no. I don't disagree that those factors that we shouldn't look at those factors. I just worry about the legality of if they're to substantiate why did we put the factors back in there. I mean, I think it's a good thing to have. It's just that I think legally it puts us maybe in an odd position to put the factors back in there. And maybe we could hope that before anything would happen again, that state changes their stance on it. If we can get Trump, if we can get Trump to push hard enough, there won't be any of them that.
So you said there's no choice. There's always, everybody has a choice to say yes or no.
Well, I don't know if that's really true.
Well, they don't meet the state.
If they meet the state, we
They
don't
don't
have
meet it.
Doesn't mean that.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we have to agree with what it is. I think that's taking my choice away and saying no. Even
But right now,
if
they can meet the state's criteria and
but not.
totally void of the LaSalle factors.
According to board chair Joe Whitty, the current language is clear, and this action would only add confusion.
So just some background, I think, I don't think you saw this language in these ordinances 3 years ago, when the House Bill 4412, I think it was passed. There was a conference down in Springfield I attended, and the recommendation at that time was, well, do they matter? Maybe not, but it doesn't hurt to have them in. And I think I did a quick survey of some of the surrounding counties. Some of them have it and some of them don't. And I think it's just a result of the unknowns at that time. I think my gut feeling is it does add confusion. It makes it look like we can consider things, but I think the statute is pretty clear that they meet the siting, decommissioning, and construction requirements that says that the county shall approve. So, to make it appear as we can consider other things, I struggle with that, but yeah.
Struggle mightily. Yeah, I like to. I just feel that at least those factors give us a chance to have a discussion at the hearing and give the constituents the opportunity to speak up as the voices to how they feel. And so it's just not totally automatic. You never convince me just because the state says so, what I got to do. They never do what I want them to do.
Unfortunately, we just have to abide with what they do,
So,
no matter if we like it or
So I
not.
don't think it hurts to have them in there.
The board sought the counsel of Markwell in the event an application met all the criteria but was overruled because of the LaSalle factors being in place. He recommended if the board were to turn down an application, they be specific for not approving why they didn't approve, rather. He notes state law has not been challenged to this point.
Mr. Markwell, can you speculate on how does it play out if there's a hearing and the majority say no?
Well,
What happens next, do you think?
Then, if the wind or solar project chose to, then they file an action in circuit court, and then obviously the transcripts, the minutes and everything, and their application would be considered by the court to determine whether it was against the manifest weight of the evidence that the board denied this, and they'll specifically look at, okay, here's the state statute, and they can look at the ordinance that's consistent with that statute. But, I would say if in the future, if the board finds that the statute is not met, you should specify why and cite that so the court is aware of that. Because if there's no discussion on that and there's nothing presented, if the court looks at it and says, yes, they met the statute and the board acted improperly, then they'll issue an order for the board to reconsider that or just grant it. I mean, quite honestly.
That's what I was wondering. Does it come back to the board for a do-over, or do they just overturn the ruling?
Well, I think the court would just overturn it at that point. But like I said, at this point, this hasn't been challenged because it's a new law. So I guess we'll all have to wait and see what happens. But in any kind of hearing like this, whether it's an SUP or not, if there's a basis to deny it, I would state that clearly on the record of what the considerations were and why it was denied.
Well, they would need to meet the state statute and our operational specifications in the ordinance, correct? I mean, otherwise, why do we even have these?
Right. I mean, we're allowed to have an ordinance as long as we don't make it more stringent in those three areas. So, there's a difference between denying the permit and whether they're able to comply operationally with it, I guess. But this is a citing permit.
Board member Terry Ferguson inquired if a local ruling was challenged, would there be financial implications for the county board? And Markwell noted the county's rejection of building permits a few years ago, where Enel Green Energy only sought the permits and did not seek restitution. But he noted a company might seek financial compensation for other reasons.
If it went that far and the judge ruled in their favor, would we be obligated for legal costs?
Perhaps.
Restitution and delay of construction.
Well, it would depend on what is pled. I mean, we've battled the wind farms in court before, and then they didn't seek any type of sanctions or any kind of punitive things. They got their ruling, and the process continued. The last time we did that, it really just depends what they plead. I mean, if they say that they're due restitution because that set them back for whatever reason, I mean, they'll have to plead that.
Joe, you said that you thought that some of the other counties in Illinois had put the factors in there. Do you know any of them that have had a challenge?
I don't think there's been any challenge.
There has not been anything, I checked this week, there hasn't been anything that's gone up to the appellate court that there's appellate law on that.
So we don't know even if there's been a wind farm that has made application in one of the other counties that has put since we've got the new law. Is Livingston, are they trying to get something, or is that? Well, anyway, I didn't know if there was anybody else that put them in and they were questioning that. So.
And that doesn't mean that there may have been a local lawsuit in a circuit court somewhere, but it never went up on appeal if that did happen.
The revision to the local ordinance failed. Patrick Ryan, Buck Carter, and Megan Myers voted in favor of adding the LaSalle factors to the ordinance. News time is 20 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Friday. The Memorial Day weekend is the unofficial start to the 2025 boating season, and local authorities are reminding boaters to play it safe this weekend. Department of Natural Resources Conservation Police Officer Noah Workman is encouraging boaters to give those boats a good once-over before getting them on the water for the first time.
We'll get the crowds. I've been in this district for about 4 years now, and so every year we've had some good Memorial Day weekends. We've had some poor weather Memorial Day weekends. I've noticed that even when it's kind of in the middle, like this weekend, I think it's calling for overcast, but still in the high 60s, it'll still draw out the boaters. We're still going to have a lot of wreck boats out on the water. So yeah, that's things to think about. Before you go out there is safety is our primary focus. We patrol that lake to enforce the primarily safety, have enough life jackets on board, If your kid's, under 13, have them in a life jacket anytime the boat's underway. Fire extinguisher, double check fire extinguishers. One thing I noticed this weekend, I ran into a couple boats, their gauge, it wasn't pressurized. Had one that was 20 years old and it was expired. Check fire extinguisher, make sure your battery terminals are covered, your battery's secured to your boat. Have a sounding device. If your horn's broke on your boat, double check that before you go out. Get yourself a whistle, an air horn, anything that can, let people know you're in distress if something were to happen.
One of the biggest points of emphasis for DNR officials is life jacket compliance. Officer Workman says it is simply about safety, and they want everyone on the water to be safe.
The most common I see are pertaining to life jackets. So you got a lot of people who will store their boats in storage sheds. They take their life jackets out, put it in a plastic tote and put it inside the garage, kind of keep the mice out of it. And they just forget to put it back in their boat prior to going out. Or you see a lot of people like on the Memorial Day weekend, they will take friends and family out, not their traditional, family, or they're not their direct family. They'll forget to put the amount of life jackets for the extra occupants that they decided to take out that week. It's one of those deals where it kind of comes. If I've got a boat who's got 6 occupants on board and 5 life jackets, more times than not, I'm going to follow that boat into a dock and then have the one person get off so that they can become in compliance and just for their safety. I mean, it's one of those deals where if that boats don't have seatbelts, boats don't have walls.
Right.
You have a collision, somebody's more than likely going to go overboard.
Officer Workman is also stressing propping in the parking, in the designated parking areas for both boat trailers and vehicles. He says they get too often people not parking in the proper lots, and it can create a lot of problems.
I'm glad you asked that. Let's talk about parking first. So with West Side boat access being closed, we're going to see an uptick in all of the other boat ramps around Clinton Lake that are managed by DNR. We ask, and it's well posted. If you're meeting your friends out there, there's an overflow parking lot for vehicles with no trailers. Leave the boat ramp parking lot for the vehicles that are going to be having the trailer on them. So that way we don't have, in the past on busy weekends, we've seen trucks with trailers just parked on the side of the road because those parking lots fill up. So we don't want that. It's a safety issue. It's also a violation within the park rules. When you're launching your boat, things to keep in mind, have your windows rolled down, have an escape plan in case something happens. If you've got a vehicle with 4-wheel drive, utilize it. Those ramps sometimes get slick with the algae and that back tire starts spinning. And if you don't have a 4-wheel drive or front wheel drive vehicle, it's just going to pull you right in. That lake I've been here, it'll suck in at least 1 or 2 trucks and trailers a year. It'll put a couple underwater, and then you got to get a dive team and a tow and pull it out. So,
wow.
But don't wear your seatbelt either. There's one time a cop's going to tell you don't wear your seatbelt. When you're backing that boat or pulling that boat out of the water, take your seatbelt off. Have your windows down so that way, in case something were to happen, you have an escape route.
While open containers of alcohol are permitted on boats, Officer Workman reminds the operator of the watercraft has to be sober. He also indicates the legalization of marijuana in Illinois has changed the game a little bit.
I'm glad you asked that. I think I failed to say if you got to have a type 4 throwable on any boat greater than 16 feet in length. But then outside of that, it's just that have your sunscreen, have your water, have food, things like that. Prepare for being out there all day, especially if it's sunny. We were kind of easing into alcohol consumption. Alcohol hits different when you're out on the water and you're in the sun all day, and it might take less drinks to get you to that level of impairment. So be mindful of those things while you're out there. If you're just a passenger on the boat, it's really not much of a worry. There's nothing that says you can't be impaired or intoxicated as a passenger. Your operator needs to not be impaired. I use the word impaired because we legalized marijuana in Illinois, so we've seen an uptick in marijuana use on the lake. You're not allowed to do it in a public place, and that is constituted as a public place. But the impairment as far as OUI still applies to if you decide you want to smoke and get high. Then if you're operating that boat, it's still an operating under impairment. You can have an open container while you're operating the boat. You just have to remain unimpaired. No, just keep in mind, like I said, you can have an open container while you operate a boat. There's nothing illegal about it. Be mindful, know your limits, know that when you get out there in the sun, that sun's going to hit different, that alcohol is going to react different in your body. You might be able to sit on your couch and drink a 6-pack and and feel okay. But, you drink a 6-pack out in the sun, it's just going to hit a little bit different.
If you're planning to keep your boat on the water all weekend, Officer Workman reminds it cannot be left unattended on the water for more than 6 hours. When they encounter this issue, they make every effort to contact the owner of the boat for them to get it off the water before having to have it towed. Visit dnr.illinois.gov for the latest on all things boating regulations in Illinois and information for state parks. 26 minutes after 7 o'clock is news time. We'll wrap things up next.
Baum Chevrolet Buick offers full transportation options while giving you peace of mind. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick here in Clinton and Farmer City. This is what we strive to do each and every day. We'll listen to you, give you the options for routine maintenance, major mechanical problems, or collision repairs with a staff that is knowledgeable to find the best option for you. Baum Chevrolet Buick, your full-service dealer. See us at baumchevybuick.com right from the start.
Experience the power of better connection with Connexus Fiber Internet. Connexus delivers ultra-fast, reliable speeds to keep you connected at the speed of life. Whether you're working from home, streaming your favorite shows, or gaming with your friends, Connexus has you covered. Say goodbye to buffering and dropped calls and say hello to Fiber Fast Internet. Ready to upgrade your connection? Sign up today by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Nothing connects us like Connexus.
27 minutes after 7 o'clock is news time on this Friday. Farmer City learned Wednesday it will be receiving $500,000 for a sidewalk project on the community's south side. City Manager Taylor Baxter indicates the Illinois Department of Transportation announced the grants Wednesday. He says this development will make the community safer.
Very excited for this one, Seth. A lot of work went into this, and thankfully we were rewarded for that. The Illinois Department of Transportation has a grant program called the ITEP grant, and that's the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program. And the city of Farmer City was awarded $488,700 for a sidewalk project along Illinois Route 54. And this sidewalk project is on the southern portion of 54. It's going to go from Main Street to Summer Street. So it's about half-mile worth of sidewalk, and this is something that I've talked about before on the radio show. Is there's a lot of bike traffic, walking traffic along 54, and now this is really going to connect where that old Casey's was at, past the new Casey's, and it's going to make it a lot safer for people to travel back and forth. So we're really excited for this.
The Baxter credits former city manager Sue McLaughlin for doing most of the heavy lifting on this grant.
Yeah, and got to give a huge shout out to our previous city manager, Sue McLaughlin. She worked very, very hard on this along with our engineers. And so, some of the prep work that goes into this, a lot of different engineering studies need to be done, preliminary plans that need to be done. And then each project is scored, and that's kind of how they determine what projects get chosen.
According to Baxter, they will update the specs of the projects in hopes of still getting it out for bid this year. He notes, though, it'll most likely be next year. News time, 29 minutes after 7 o'clock. News brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and by Connexus, providing fiber internet to Clinton. Learn more at DeWittDailyNews.com. Get news anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com. Network news comes your way next. Network sports and local sports all on the way.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. First-degree murder among the charges lodged against a 30-year-old Chicago man stemming from Wednesday night's fatal shootings of two young Israeli embassy staffers outside Washington's Capitol Jewish Museum. Investigators are examining the charred wreckage of a small plane that crashed in a San Diego neighborhood yesterday. At least 3 people on board the plane were killed. A heavy fog blanketed the area at the time. The plane clipped a power line. A week after the jailbreak, the hunt goes on for 5 inmates who escaped from a New Orleans lockup last Friday. 5 other fugitives, also part of the jailbreak, have since been recaptured. 4 people are dead, 1 missing. Record flooding along the east coast of Australia. Watching Wall Street, the Dow futures are down 607 points. NASDAQ futures off 409. More details, srnnews.com. With SRN Sports, I'm George Williams. NBA playoff action last night. It was the Oklahoma City Thunder taking the second game of their best of seven from the Timberwolves, 118-103. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 38 points a day after being named the NBA's most valuable player. Tonight, Pacers and Knicks for Game 2. NHL action, Game 2 between the Panthers and Hurricanes goes to Florida easily in a 5-0 shutout. Florida takes a 2-0 lead in games in that series. Sam Bennett scored 2 goals for the Panthers. Tonight, Stars and Oilers. Major League Baseball, brief schedule last night in a rain-delayed game. It was the Brewers over the Pirates. Nationals beat the Braves in 10. Blue Jays over the Padres in 11. Then there were 3 shutouts. Yankees beat the Rangers 1-0. Phillies over the Rockies 2-0. Guardians were 7-0 winners over the Tigers. The remaining games, Angels over the Athletics. Astros beat the Mariners. Orioles and Red Sox were rained out. This is SRN Sports. Pro Golf, day 1 of the Charles Schwab Challenge. Yesterday at the Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas, John Pock fires a 64 for a 7-under par and 3-shot lead. It is the course best associated with the great Ben Hogan. Indianapolis 500 this Sunday. Your front row will be Robert Schwartzman, Takuma Sato, a 2-time Indy winner, and Pato O'Ward. And Schwartzman is a 25-year-old rookie driver with dual nationality from Israel and Russia. First rookie to qualify for the Indy 500 since 1983. He's a Tel Aviv native and the first driver from Israel to make the greatest spectacle in racing. NASCAR will be at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend. And college football is revamping its playoff structure yet again for the 3rd time in 3 years to try to keep competitiveness among the teams. This is SRN Sports.
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. Brady Hart singled in Gage Flaherty in the top of the 7th inning to break a 1-all tie, and Normal West edged Mahomet Seymour 2-1 in non-conference high school baseball action Thursday in Mahomet. Sam McCulley hit a 1-out double, and Flaherty was inserted as a courtesy runner. Hart singled to right, allowing Flaherty to score. Hart went 2 for 4 with an RBI for the Wildcats. Chase Newth was 2 for 4 with a triple, while McCulley was 1 for 2 with a double and an RBI. Nolan Schultz added a double, going 1 for 3. Chase Reinhart earned the win on the mound for Normal West, pitching 6 2/3 innings, allowing a run and striking out 6. Normal West improves to 20-13 on the season. Lincoln scored 4 runs in the 3rd inning and rolled to a 7-1 win over Decatur MacArthur in non-conference high school baseball action Thursday in Lincoln. With the game tied at 1, Drew Hayes led off the frame with a single. Parker Grau was hit by a pitch. Both runners advanced during Jaden Gully's at bat, who brought home Hayes with a ground out to first to make it 2-1 rail splitters. Carson Komnick tripled in Grau, followed by a Brady Miller base hit that scored Owen Comstock, running for Komnick, making it 4-1 in favor of Lincoln. Kyle Keeler singled in Miller, who stole 2nd and 3rd base, making it 5-1. Hayes was 2 for 4 with an RBI and a stolen base. Brady Miller swiped 2 bags, finishing 1 for 2 with an RBI and 2 runs scored. Gully and Keeler had RBIs for Lincoln, while Komnick was 1 for 3 with a triple. Lincoln is 14-16 overall. They wrap up the regular season hosting Lanphier on Saturday. Class 1A high school baseball regional semifinal action from Thursday from the Argenta-Orienta Regional at Decatur-Milliken. Arcola blanked Decatur Unity Christian 10-0, and Argenta-Orienta blanked Cerro Gordo 9-0. From the Dwight Regional, Lexington outlasted Leroy in 8 innings, 7-4. From Illini Bluffs, Delavan edged Havana 4-3. From the Hayworth Regional, Roanoke Benson took down Ridgeview in 6 innings, 12-2. Class 2A high school baseball regional semifinal action from Thursday. From the Auburn Regional, Auburn beat Pana 5-1. From the Olympia Regional, shifted to the Corn Crib in Normal. Prairie Central edged Tremont 2-1. From the Tolono Unity Regional, Tolono Unity pounded Paxton Buckley Loda 12-2. From the North Mac Regional, Shelbyville got by Hillsboro 14-4. Class 1A high school regional semifinal action from Thursday. From the Leroy Regional, it was Leroy over Hayworth 9-1, and Fisher beat GCMS 11-1. Class 2A high school softball regional semifinal action from Thursday. From the Lisle Regional, IVC blanked Spring Valley Hall 13-0, and Peru St. Bede outlasted El Paso Gridley 8-6. From the St. Joe Ogden Regional, Westville doubled up Bloomington Central Catholic 10-5. From the Olympia Regional, DMAC down Tremont 10-2. Class 1A high school softball regional championship action for today. From the Illini Bluffs Regional, Illini Bluffs goes for a regional championship opposite Danville. From the Leroy Regional, Leroy goes for a regional title opposite Fisher. From Villa Grove, it'll be Villa Grove and Central A&M. Saturday action from Tuscola. Tuscola takes on Arcola at 10 a.m. Class 2A high school softball regional championship action this afternoon at 4. From Bismarck-Henning, it'll be Seneca and Lexington. From the Macon Regional, Meridian takes on Pana this afternoon at 4:30. From the Monticello Regional at 4:30, it's Tolono Unity and Tri-Valley. Tonight from the Quincy Notre Dame Regional, QND takes on Buffalo Tri-City at 5:30. And from the Olympia Regional at 4:30 this afternoon, Olympia takes on DMAC. Saturday regional championship action from the St. Joe Ogden Regional, Normal U-High takes on Westville at 11 a.m. Class 1A high school baseball regional championship action for Saturday. Today, it'll be Hayworth taking on Peoria Heights in regional semifinal play at 4:30. And the winner takes on Roanoke Benson at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. From the Argenta-Orienta Regional, Arcola battles Argenta-Orienta tomorrow at 11. From the Illini Bluffs Regional, it'll be Illini Bluffs and Delavan tomorrow morning at 11. From the Milford Regional, GCMS takes on Milford at 11. And finally, from the Tuscola Regional, Mount Pulaski battles Tuscola tomorrow morning at 11. Class 2A high school baseball Saturday regional championship action from the Maroa Forsyth Regional. Monticello takes on Maroa Forsyth tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Hear that action on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. From the Quincy Notre Dame Regional, Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin battles QND tomorrow morning at 11. From the Riverton Regional, it'll be Pleasant Plains and Pittsfield tomorrow morning at 10. From the Olympia Regional, Normal U-High battles Prairie Central tomorrow morning at 11. From the Tolono Unity Regional, St. Joe Ogden takes on Tolono Unity at 10. And from the North Mac Regional, North Mac battles Shelbyville tomorrow morning at 11. Illinois State dropped a pair of Thursday games at the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament in Normal. First to second-seeded Missouri State 7-2, then to sixth-seeded Belmont 7-3. Missouri State scored 7 runs in the fourth inning to break open the opener. Back-to-back doubles in the eighth allowed ISU to get on the board with Shy Robinson plating Braden Bakes. Noah Smith led the Redbirds with 3 hits in the contest. Belmont scored 3 times in the first 3 innings, highlighted by a 2-run home run. Illinois scored its first run in the 5th off an RBI single from Smith. Smith led off the 8th for the Redbirds with a solo shot before Daniel Contreras sent home Judah Morris with a sac fly for a 7-3 final. Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times, with fog in spots early today, with daytime highs approaching 70. Westerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly cloudy skies expected. Tonight, lows dip down to